What's up, y'all? Today we're going to start our journey to using HTML and CSS. Now this is beginner course. We're not really going to get into much JavaScript, but if you're interested in programming languages and you think that you might want to get into them, then this video is definitely for you, because HTML and CSS are extremely easy programming languages that really anybody can learn. Even my 75-year-old grandmother could totally learn this. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so the very first thing that we're going to be doing is we're going to take a look at Visual Studio Code, or VS Code for short. Now, this is what a lot of people use. Lots of people decide to code off of this because it is really small. So if we type in VS Code, you're going to see this icon. Now, this blue icon is the one that you're looking for. Another one that you might stumble upon is Visual Studios. And this purple icon, see, this is way different. This can technically give you what you want, but this is for like really heavy stuff that you would be programming. That's not what we need. We need Visual Studio Code. So go ahead and download that for whatever your computer that you're using. Obviously, make sure to look at the address for where you're going, the URL, and make sure you're not downloading anything malicious. So the very first thing that we're going to need to do here is to create a folder, because we're going to need something to build our script inside of while using Visual Studio Code. So here I'm just going to create it on my desktop. So I'm going to click New Folder, and why not just name it like, oh, I can do this, I swear, VS Code Project. You can name it whatever you want. Try to name it something that is a reminder of what the project is. Some people, you know, they're not quite bright when it comes to those sorts of things. They're like, let's build a math project, and then they label it school. You know, we want to be more specific, especially when we're programming. So now that we have VS Code Project, the folder open here, we're going to go into VS Code. I already have it in my dock. You just find it, and if you're doing it on PC, it's basically the same thing. You're just doing the PC side of things instead of Mac. So open Visual Studio Code, and we're going to click here in this icon right here, Explorer, and we're going to click on Open Folder. I'm going to say Desktop because that's where I saved it, and then VS Code. VS Code Project Open. So now we have opened it. Now we need to open a file in it. So you'll see over here on this side it says VS Code Project. That is the folder we're in. We're going to put a file in there, and we're going to name it index.html. You'll notice that when I'm typing after the dot, it changes the icon right next to it. So look right here. If I go H, now it's C, T, nothing, M, and then that's an HTML icon. And then put the last one, HTML. Index.html is what you'll see a lot of HTML projects labeled, and that is usually the very beginning. So maybe you'll have a dashboard that you're creating, and that would be dashboard.html. Okay, so you could call it index.html, and it would be the dashboard. So maybe index.html/dashboard, something like that. So then just hit enter, and now we are in the file. Okay, and we can put many folders inside of a folder. We could have put files inside of the project. We just did one here, and that's what we have. So now that we have this, we're going to need to get a few extensions in here. So we're going to click on this little box icon. So the very first thing that we're going to need is 5. Just type in 5. It's called 5 server. Just type in 5 and you'll get it. Click on that and you'll see this open up. So basically what this does is it opens up a server on your computer. So think of it like how YouTube talks to your computer. You're sending a request to YouTube by saying www.youtube.com. And then when YouTube responds, it gives you back all of the stuff that is inside youtube.com. And that's basically what's happening here. We want to be able to see our HTML, and so we're going to use a server to see it all. You don't need any Wi-Fi for this, which is the best part about it. So you can say install. There will be an install button here. I already have it installed, so I'm not going to do that. Once you have it installed, then we can get on to the next part of the project. You'll notice at first that all of the tabs kind of appear up at the top, and so you can close them, open more, and such. Then the last thing you might want to do is change the theme of your project. You can actually get extension themes for that. If you type in theme here, then you can download themes from here. I have a sort of hacker theme on mine, but you can also use the pre-installed ones if you go to the settings icon down at the bottom, and then you go to color theme, and they would appear here. The Dark Abyss is actually a really cool one. Alright. No more playing around. Let's get into it. The very first thing that I'm going to have you do, you are going to write your very first program, and it's going to take you 2 clicks. Ready? Open up that index.html, press shift and exclamation mark right there. Press enter. Boom. Immediately created. Okay, so now what you're going to do, you're going to open up 5 server, okay? And you're going to type command or control if you're on PC. So command shift P, and that's going to open up the preferences here. Type in 5 server. It should come up. Boom. What is this? White page? I see. Okay. Let's make it half the screen. And let's make this half the screen too. Okay. So what's going on here? Let's see this title right here. See this title? Okay. See this title over here? Whoa, that's interesting that it's labeled the same thing. What if we change it to, I don't know, VS Code Project. Nothing happened. Okay, that's interesting. Well, I know exactly what is wrong. Let's go to the settings down here in VS Code, and then we'll go to settings, and from here it's going to say autosave. We're going to go after delay. Okay, and that's done. So now we're going to restart this. I'm going to close that settings and Command Shift P or Control Shift P. Open up 5 server. Check that out. That's crazy. It says VS Code Project. What I mean when I say it is a server, that's what they mean when they built the server. So 127.0.0.1, that is the default IP address for your specific computer. It's what transfers it back to you. That is specific to everything. Like if we open up, let's just show you, if I open up the terminal on Windows, if you open up CMD or the PowerShell and you type in ping 127.0.0.1, press enter, and it's going to ping it. Okay, this means that it's on. You press Control C to stop it. This means that it's on. So basically what this is doing is sending an echo response back to your computer, and then that is sending it back to your computer, right? So you're seeing, hey, is my computer up and running? In the same way, this is what the server is doing here. It's saying, hey, are you up and running? And you're like, yes. And I want you to display what is happening with HTML in this server. So everything here is displayed here. Text, show. Text, show.
Winner, loser.
So, also, we can click on here to close this, make it smaller. So now we can see everything here. And this is the cool part. This is what the main part of this video is going to be. I'm going to have you type in div, okay? But if you look, you can see everything here starts and ends with those little like less than and greater than symbols. So that's what you're going to do. You're going to type a greater than symbol. Well, I don't know. This would be a less than. I don't know what it is. It depends on which way it's facing, but this would be, I'm going to say the greater than symbol. And then div for div. And you can see it auto-populates here. And then close that symbol. And you see it auto-populates here. So then the second thing you'll notice is that this is the ending. So if you look on div here, that is the opening, and then on /div, so that's the closing. So this is the way that you can see everything closing. You'll see it the same way here on HTML. It has /HTML, and this one is head, and then down here it's /head. So that's how you close it. Okay, and you're like, oh man, nothing happened over here. Well, the div is there. We just have to color it. So we're going to color it with CSS. We're not going to get into CSS in this video, but in the next video we will. For right now, we're going to color it by doing it in HTML. With HTML, there's two ways to do something for styling it. You can either do it directly in the HTML, which is useful sometimes, or you can do it in CSS. Right now we're just going to focus on in HTML. So you're going to type in style, because we're going to style it, and then you're going to type in equal sign. So style equals, and then it's going to be inside quotes. Okay? So if the style equals whatever is inside quotations. And we're going to say here, how high do we want this to be? Let's say height 100 pixels. And then we end every command with a semicolon. Okay, and now we have the height, but we need a width. And so width, colon, 100 pixels. And you can make it anything, honestly. And then end it with a semicolon. And now the important one, color. So for this one, the color, it's like in a Word document. If you type in color in the Word document, it's going to change the color of the text. Whereas if you type in background color or text background color, then it's going to give you the background color for the text. And that's the same thing here. You can think of the div as the background. So instead of saying color, we're going to say background color. If we said color, then it would change whatever the color for the text is inside that div. So let's just go with red, and then end it with a semicolon. And whoa, we can see that it's here. It's here. I swear. You did that. We did that together. And so that is how you do that there. I mean, there's not really much else I can say. And so if I copy this, just to show you one more thing before we end this here video, if I copy that and then paste it again, we can see that it just got a little bit longer. Let me teach you one more command. We'll say margin. We're going to put a margin on it. And there's two things here that you have to remember. There's padding and there's margin. Padding is on the inside of something. Margin is on the outside of something. So if I said padding 10 pixels, that's not going to do what I want. I want it to separate from the top, right? So now I'm going to say margin. And if you see there, now it's still the same size here, but it has that margin around it. So now there's 10 pixels of margin around this entire thing. So I could do the same thing. It'll show you the same thing if I paste this in again. There's still 10 pixels of margin between these two things. But if I paste it in one more time, now there's no margin because it's just on this one. So anyways, you could play around with that. If you want the important things that I would say to play around with for right now is not just this div here, but try this one. You could go greater than symbol, H1, and then inside H1 type in whatever you want. Type some text here. Whoa! And then try this. You could go H2, type smaller text here. See that it's just got a little bit smaller? And this goes all the way down to H6. Oop. Sorry about that. It goes all the way down to H6, where we type smallest text here. See that? And that's crazy. So just like fiddle around with it. And then even inside this div, so if I go inside the div, right? So here's the opening and here's the closing. So if I go inside here, I could go H6. Hey. And now you can see it's inside the div right there. So then we could even make that more seeable, H3. And so go, hey. So you see it's still inside that div. So play around with that, see how you like it, and then we'll get into CSS in the next video, and from there on out, we'll just continue going on. So the main things to take away from this lesson is number 1, use 5-server to see everything here. You don't necessarily have to use 5-server, but that's what I use because I like it. Secondly, inside your HTML, shift and then exclamation mark and enter. That's going to give you what's called the boilerplate. Inside this boilerplate, you have to type inside the body. Typing anywhere else is going to give you a different result that we're not going to talk about right now. Then we have a type of container called the div. You open and close things with greater than and less than signs. And lastly, you can type text inside an H column. I like to call them H columns. They go from H1, which is the biggest, down to H6. Always making sure to close them. And if you do forget to close them, then just remember that they auto-populate. So that's what we got here. I'll see you guys in the next video.